3, 2.
Hi everybody, I am Jose.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to be talking about building your personal brand. Chris, you told me a great story during lunch.
Hey, yes, I guess.
Repeat it.
Can I repeat it? Thank you. You know, I've made this observation that the internet has made it really easy to work with people, creative types from all over geographic locations, offsite, and it's great. But there's a problem with that, is that when you hire somebody and you only see the end product,
you don't see the process.
You don't see the process, and it makes you feel uneasy. There's surprises, and you're not sure how flexible they are in terms of how they work with you. And so I've realized the importance of being transparent with your process.
Sharing your process,
building
a personal brand, who you are.
Yep.
Awesome. So that's the topic we're going to be talking about today. Who do we have?
We have Roberto Blake, and he's going to be joining us in a second. And we want to hear from you guys. Hashtag the process, the school, at the school rocks. We want to hear from you why you're still on the fence, if you haven't taken the plunge yet. What's holding you back? What are the issues that you face? And if you've taken the plunge, what are some of the benefits and the challenges you've seen? So join the conversation.
Join us on Twitters, on the Twitters. All right, let's get started. With the cool graphics.
Cool graphics, main title.
There you go. Now that's good. I'm like, clap a little early. So, segment 1, we're going to be talking to Roberto. Welcome, Roberto Blake, to the show today.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you. So, for those of you that might not know Roberto, can you spend a minute introducing yourself, telling us who you are?
Sure. My name is Roberto Blake. I'm a graphic designer that specializes in brand development and advertising. In the online community and especially in YouTube, I actually help other creative professionals, especially designers, photographers, and artists, build their personal brands by sharing my secrets, my experience, help them with design tutorials and how to use the different Adobe tools. But I also speak to career aspirations and what you should be doing to tell your own story, create awesome things, and share them with the world.
And here's on my screen, I have your channel on YouTube, which has got about 21,000 subscribers. And you do a really great job talking about the different topics, especially promoting yourself. I love your Create Awesome t-shirts. I think they're awesome.
Oh yeah, those are pretty cool. You know what? I really ought to send you guys some. You know, there's
look at that.
So people can see.
Love to see that. Love to get one. So let's talk about personal branding. What does personal branding mean to you, Roberto?
So for me, I always tell people that personal branding comes down to storytelling. At the end of the day, it's like you know, Christo was saying. You might see somebody's results, you might see that, but you don't know the formula that got it there. So how can you trust it, and how can you trust that it's authentic and that matches with what you value and what you're comfortable with? When people develop a personal brand and tell you their story, you now don't have to instinctively or intuitively trust them. You have a reason to, because like you can relate to that and you can understand where they're coming from, their motives, and what their end goal really is in doing these things. So that just builds this greater sense of connectedness to what they're doing, and it reveals the process. When you see when somebody's transparent and they show you how they got to that, you have a better appreciation for it, and you realize how it can be adapted to fit what you need. And that's just going to make you more comfortable in working with them. And there's also tremendous benefit in the relationships that a personal brand brings to you.
So let's talk a little bit. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I don't want to necessarily step on Christo's
don't step on it.
Toes.
You just don't do it.
I don't want to step on Christo's toes, but I'm going to ask a quantitative question.
He's going to step on my toes.
Why should a designer, like, what are the benefits, basically? Like, why should I invest the time? And something that we should say right away off the bat, one of the challenges with designers sometimes is that they're fairly shy, or that they don't want to expose themselves to the public. So I'm curious how you overcame that issue. Obviously,
you don't have that issue.
Thanks. I'm a very obnoxious Puerto Rican guy. How did you get through that?
See, the thing is, I started out very introverted. I'm a big old nerd. I'm into comics and you know, sci-fi and all that stuff. So I'm a big old nerd, and I started out very introverted and very reserved. And being on YouTube definitely helped me build that confidence, get over it, speaking to an audience regularly, doing public speaking. But if you can't overcome that, there are ways to deal with it. But let's talk first to the quantitative part that you want to know in terms of the value. So as you should probably know by now, personal branding is huge for inbound marketing, because if you're putting out content, that makes you more discoverable. If you just have your portfolio and a website out there, unless someone's specifically looking for you and they don't have a reason to yet, then it's hard for them to find you, pick up the phone and say, hey, I want to hire this guy or gal. But if you're putting out content that introduces you, prefaces it with maybe solving a problem they have, like why should you hire a logo designer or how much to charge or anything like that, then that's content that says, hey, this person's knowledgeable, so it establishes you as an authority on what you're speaking about, and that you don't just, produce the result, you understand something and can communicate intelligently. And then the other part is that builds inbound marketing, equity for you, because if you're putting content out, then that's eyeballs you're getting in that you might not have gotten in any other way. I get maybe 30,000 hits to my own personal website and blog because of that personal brand that I've built and the content I put out. The YouTube channel, I get all those subscribers, and I get about 150,000 views a month now, and that's eyeballs that I couldn't get if my portfolio was just out there. So in terms of raw numbers, that's what it looks like, at least for me, and what the value is there. But more importantly, the value is the relationships that I got out of that. I got the relationship that I have with you guys partly because of that and my social media audience. So now we're talking, we're having this conversation, there's value in that. The relationship I have with partners like Creative Pro to write content, How, Print, those are relationships I got specifically because I demonstrated my value, demonstrated my intelligence to speak in the design and marketing space, and showed that, people will be interested in what I have to say. So, there's tremendous value in that, and I've gotten clients that way as well.
That's awesome. Thank you, Roberto, for sharing that. The value is the numbers are big. 125,000 views a month. It's not a small amount. Christo, how would you react to seeing what the quantitative value is of what Roberto is doing?
What do you mean?
Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, in terms of what you think about that.
What do you mean?
But I'm curious
difficult.
if you approve, if Christo
I think it's amazing.
That's my point.
I have just much props to you that you're a graphic designer. I don't know if you shared it earlier, but we had this conversation about you're mostly a self-taught graphic designer. You didn't finish your traditional 4 years in school, and you're doing amazing things. You're enrolling clients. You have this really big following, and I'm envious of you, and this is great. So I want to learn from you today.
That's awesome, man.
So today I'm in the student mode.
Christo,
that really is that's really exciting to hear, and it's like, you know what, Chris? Everyone starts at zero. I'm a big fan of understanding and appreciating that everyone starts at zero, and you just got to put it out there, and you'll get the return. Value creates value. I honestly believe that. That's part of the Create Awesome philosophy, is that if you're doing and creating amazing things, then good things are going to happen and people are going to gravitate to it. I love what you guys are doing. I've been a big fan of the show. I've been following it, and we've been connecting online for a while. And I think there's tremendous value in what you guys are doing, and I definitely want to see and help you guys grow any way I can. And part of what I do in the YouTube community is specifically from that place. It's that genuine place of, look, I don't believe in competing. I believe in cooperation. I'm only competing with myself. I'm competing with, Emperor Roberto 10 years from now. I'm not competing with anybody else in the space. I just want to, create as much value for people in our community, people like us, and that benefit from people like us, in the business side. And I think that if I reveal the process, help people improve their process, then instead of the industry being devalued, the value of it, increases. And if I can be a part of that, then great.
So wait, can I jump in?
Go ahead.
You said some really awesome things I want to just highlight for a second. I just want to point out that a lot of people, especially in you and I have been sharing, are very suspicious of our motivations and our intentions. It's really strange. So a person like yourself sharing your entire process and showing your secrets, if you will, that's a rare thing. And I'm fully just in your camp about creating value, and it'll come back to you. And that's why I do. Those are my motivations. I'm being as transparent as possible. I go out and teach. I get a lot of fulfillment from it. But now when I teach in an online manner, I'm reaching a much bigger audience, ones that don't have access to a private school, art school education. So I believe in that. You have the confidence.
Well, one thing I want to point out, and one thing that people don't see about Chris Doe, is that you're actually nervous before going on stage.
Thanks for pointing that out.
And you're nervous before going on camera. And I don't really care. I just kind of like show up on stage and stumble, you know, and hey, what's going on? But that kind of helps. But no, my point is that it helps. But I just want to make the point and go back to the design. You know, designers said a lot of horrible things about me for being so obnoxious on social media. You're the one who told me, oh my God, Jose, people say this about you. What did people say about me?
I don't have to tell you. You can read it in the comments.
Oh.
You can read it right in the comments.
Well, it's time for your segment, Chris.
No, hold on. I want to finish the thought.
But the thought that I want to finish is that I want to make sure that people know that whether it's a channel like YouTube, what Roberto's doing, or whether it's a blog, or whether it's Twitter, whatever it might be, building your personal brand means you got to get naked in front of a lot of people.
Okay, and not all of us are ready to get naked because it means people are going to comment and people are going to judge you. How do you deal with the haters? We mentioned it earlier in the top of the show about the trolls and all that stuff. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of kind of keyboard warriors typing in stuff. You know, they suck away your energy.
Suck.
Right. How do you respond to that? What's your take on that?
So thankfully, in my case, I get a lot less of that because, one, at the level that I'm doing things in terms of quantifiably how much content I'm putting out, I think that I've exhausted a lot of them. I think that they can't keep up anymore, so that's great. But other than that,
it's a battle of attrition.
But other than that, I have a wonderful community because of the value that I'm creating for them. You know, the Create Awesome community, as you already know, is growing tremendously. And most of the comments are people seeking help. But when it's the occasional troll or somebody just wanting to do a personal attack, I talked about this in my How to Deal with Negative Comments on YouTube video. And basically, I deal with everything from that positive place. And if somebody is doing that and is not adding value to the conversation in the comments, I just delete the comments because, you know, YouTube's not a democracy. And the thing is, I don't want the negativity to infect my audience. And I talked about the fact that it's not just about protecting my own mental health and not trying to get depressed. It's about the fact that I don't need someone injecting negativity into what is a positive conversation. I look at every video I put out as kind of a conversation that I'm having with my audience. And so it'd be like some rude person walking into the room during my speaking event and me not addressing that and dealing with that and having them escorted out. So I look at it as a real physical relationship in that regard and deal with it like, how would I approach that? I would be polite, respectful about it, understand that my motives need to be consistent, and that the reason for, you know, dealing with this person needs to be, what are they saying? Are they saying something legitimate, and are they doing it in a respectful way that adds value? Because if so, I can just deal with that and have a conversation with them, and their motives will be revealed, as will mine, in a very transparent way, and the community is smart enough to understand that. And if not, and they just are baiting or they're a troll, I need to eliminate them from the conversation because they're not creating value. So that's how I deal with them.
Let's get quantitative, like an 80s gym thing. Let's get physical here. Chris, your turn to ask some tangible questions.
Can I ask intangible questions?
Oh, come on. You got to ask tangible questions.
So I'm already enrolled in this idea of living a more public life and sharing your process and being transparent. Could you share some stories about how this has helped you in your career and getting new clients or anything else that you can point to? Can you share a couple of stories with us? Sure,
absolutely. A while back, and this was when I was still in the employment space, et cetera, I actually got my first agency job because of my personal brand. I got it because I was able to index in YouTube and be found, and I was doing some other things. I had gotten published in Advanced Photoshop magazine. You know, I did a lot of things with my personal work to attract the attention because I didn't put in an application for that job at all. And then added to that, what I was able to do and present, because you brought it up before, that, okay, I didn't have a 4-year degree. I did go to college, but I didn't finish, and then I built on my skills and taught myself at an advanced level, and I had to compete with people from Parsons, Pratt, FIT, School of Visual Arts to get an agency gig, and I was able to crush the interview because I had the confidence from what I'd done with my personal brand. I was able to speak to that, show quantifiably, you know, the value that I can create, and that I was savvy, and that I had the transparency of my process. All of that played a role in the difference between someone having anxiety versus not from a hiring decision, and it made everything stop being theoretical. It showed you can definitely speak intelligently to this. you are becoming an authority on this, you know this stuff, and this is where the future is heading, you have a place here. And that's what it came down to. Beyond that, with clients, I have clients from the YouTube channel that sometimes they are solopreneurs. They're trying to sit there and trying to do something with their own visual branding or build a logo or do whatever, and even though they find the tutorial helpful, they're not satisfied with what they're able to produce on their own, so then they'll give me a call and we'll start a relationship and we'll start building from there, and I'll end up doing work for them. And beyond that, even showing them what I can do in the marketing side for myself expands the work into a consulting and marketing role, and then I end up taking over work for the whole brand. I built what should have been an initial like $600 project into a $5,000 or more relationship for the whole year off of scenarios like that. And that's the value of what my personal brand, has done for me quantifiably. And then again, beyond that, the relationships that it's brought to me. I now have relationships with a lot of great people like yourselves. We're having this conversation now because of things that I've done. I've gotten to speak with people that I admire in the space. I've gotten to have conversations in Twitter with people like Terry White or Jared Poland because, there's something to the fact that, I may not be as big as them, but I'm doing stuff that they find interesting and I'm putting it out there. So, the relationships that this has brought me, the opportunities. I'm going to be speaking in June at PepCon, in the digital publishing industry about the value of YouTube because of what I've been able to do with it. So
that's awesome.
The opportunities it's built, it's amazing. I couldn't have predicted it, and it was a relatively short period of time.
So Chris is going to get a little bit even more quantifiable. I love your next question. And by the way, check out Chris is super cool. Like he has his
it's in color
Twitter
right
in the
here.
back in color. It's in color, but mine are like
handmade.
Handmade.
That's all right.
Okay, so step by step.
Step by step. Can you take us through a process of how you start to build your online brand and scaffold us from the kind of early stages? Like, what are the 3 big steps you have to take to kind of get to a good place?
Know your story, know your audience, and then just create awesome. And it's literally, it sounds super simple. In a way it is, in a way it isn't. You have to know your story cold. You have to know who you are, what you want to talk about, and who that creates value for, whose problems it solves, who's going to resonate with it, and that is going to dictate everything else, because if you know what your story and your audience is, that will tell you what the appropriate platform is. You'll decide whether, well, is YouTube appropriate, and if I'm a shy person, how do I do that? Well, maybe you are a shy person, you don't want to get in front of the camera. You can leverage motion graphics, you can leverage still slides, and you can still be in the YouTube space. It's the second biggest search engine. So if you have a good speaking voice and you're comfortable to talk, but you're not comfortable to be on camera for whatever reason, that's an option for you. Or you can go to another platform like SlideShare. You can do blogging. So the platform will be predicated by the audience and also by your personal story and your personal experience. So that's why I say know your story cold, know your audience, and then go straight to creating as much content at scale as you possibly can, and just appropriate to what your infrastructure is. I built an infrastructure specifically so that if I want to, and up to the point for the last couple of 2 months or so I have, if I want to, I can put out a YouTube video every day, and that doesn't mean shooting a video every day, although it could. It means putting a lot of videos in the can, so I know my story, I know my content, I know what I want to hit. I have an inventory that I made of, I think, over 1,500 different topics I could do videos on. So I don't have any time soon that I'm going to run out of, what do I talk about this week or what do I talk about today? I have maybe 20 videos that I haven't finished editing now sitting in the can to be edited. So I put myself in a position to deliver on that and be successful, and that's part of my process in the YouTube space. And I also know what content I want to put out more or less on what days. I have a fixed fluid kind of schedule with that. I got to create awesome t-shirts, and I actually visually aligned some of them to topics as far as colors. So, I took it that far. I built out a plan and a strategy to execute on.
Roberto, can I cut you off?
Sure.
I have a question for you, and I just want to jump into the conversation a little bit more, and I think what you're sharing is really awesome. So here's my thing. Did you know who you were and your audience at the beginning, or is it an evolutionary process? Did you iterate?
It is absolutely an evolutionary process. I woke up at some point in the last couple of years, and I said, if I was going to, I have the rest of my life ahead of me, what is every day supposed to look like? And it was, what would you do if, like, I take all the things off the table? If I take, you know, money, rent, gas, if I take everything off the table, it's like, what does my life look like? What do I want to do every day? I want to help people create awesome things. I want to share the awesome things I'm creating, and I want to build a legacy of making the world a better place, and I don't want creatives to go through the hardships that I did in my early career, and I want them to be able to move beyond that quickly. So then I built everything off of that concept of, that's my story in terms of what do I value? What is my, you know, branding ethos? So that's where it came from, and that's what I did. And it evolved. It started with simple Photoshop tutorials and talking about design a little bit, and then people responded, and I started delivering based on what they asked for and what our relationship became. So that's how it all happened.
Let me jump in there. So what it sounds like to me, if I can recap there, is you did what you knew. You were really good at Photoshop, so you started doing some tutorials. And unlike in traditional media, in online media, there's a conversation that happens, and the topics emerge because of the comments and the questions that you get posted on your videos. And so that then spawns new content, and you go where the audience wants to take you, right?
Exactly.
That's cool. And I've noticed the same thing with myself, in that I thought I was going to talk about like high-level business concepts, but in a different video that you talked about this is that audience big enough? So you have to think about that. Like what you might have to say, and you're an expert at it, it might have an audience of 4. And you kind of have to think about how to broaden your message out a little bit.
Well, how to make it relevant and contextual to more people. But what you're saying that's interesting that Roberto's really emphasizing is that it's a conversation. It isn't a one-way monologue between you and your audience. It's really listening to the comments, etc. So I'm going to be the devil's advocate and be Chris Do here. You know, a lot of people are going to say, well, this takes up a lot of time. You have to be really prolific or manic, like Chris Do, staying up at night doing PowerPoints and, you know, really sharing with people. How do I, as a shy designer, which
that's not you.
It's funny because that's not me, you know, who doesn't necessarily want to be doing this promotional stuff all the time. How do I get myself to do it?
Because there's this idea that when you put stuff out, you're being self-promotional.
You're being
you're being too self-promotional, and it's like it's not good in the design community.
But we're in the 21st century. All these channels are so accepted. As long as you take up very little time of people, 5 minutes of people's time, it's just on their Facebook feed. It goes away. It doesn't stay. Does that make sense?
So actually, a couple of quick things there. So yes, absolutely you have to be respectful of their time, but the big thing is remember that you're supposed to be creating value. So that's part of, again, my Create Awesome philosophy is like, okay, create value for other people, but also share the awesome things I'm doing, which means that, and I say it's awesome because it's going to inspire someone, and because I'm also working to make it awesome. It's not awesome because I said it is, it's awesome because it's going to move someone, even if they don't like it, to take action. And that's what we do as designers that's interesting, is we drive people to take action one way or the other. And what you need to do if you're a shy designer and you don't want to do certain things, or partly you have to get over it a little bit because we now live in a content-driven economy. That's what it's going to, you know, which we will probably talk about at some point, but that's where things are heading. You have to think like a media company, and you have to understand that when you create content, you're creating value for other people, but you're also creating value for yourself in the fact you have IP now to leverage. You have intellectual property to leverage. Every piece of material that you put out is an opportunity for people to discover you, find you, engage with you, hire you, and see value in what you're doing. If you have a cause that you care about, you could make an infographic as a designer that has nothing to do with something an employer contracted you or a client contracted you to do, that then will lead to other jobs because there are other people who care about that cause, will see your infographic, see your little credit at the bottom, and someone will say, hey, maybe Forbes will want to use that, or maybe Fastco will want to use that because it's gaining some traction or because it goes to the context of something they're putting out. So creativity, consistency, and context. Constantly put things out there that have value for other people and value to you personally. Be creative and adapt and say, you know what, if I can't do this and this isn't me, find what is you, do that to the best of your ability as consistently as possible and scale it. And just pound it, pound it, pound it. Just do, you know, whatever you have to do where that's concerned.
Great. So we have a question, actually. Wait, hold on.
Wait. Do I get a question?
The time. How long does it take?
No. Before let me ask a question. All right. So you're an expert. You're growing your followers or subscribers on YouTube. Can you give us some tips for Jose and I? Because I always like to ask our guests who are experts, what should we be doing differently if we want to start to gain the traction that you have? So can you prescribe some tips for us on how we can grow our audience?
So I would say it comes down to 3 basic concepts, and I'm partly paraphrasing and borrowing some of this from Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm a big follower of. He's the guy when it comes to social media marketing. The interest graph, the attention graph, and the engagement graph. You spoke partly to this earlier. Are there enough people interested in what you're doing? There are a ton of designers and creative professionals out there, so we know that there's an audience for this. What problems can we solve for them? What problems can your channel solve for them? And do you do that in the context of you guys do great long-form content in the 20-minute plus category, but there's long and there's medium and short-form content you probably need to be doing too. That is, short form is under 4 minutes, and medium form would be between 4 and 20 minutes, and then you guys do a lot of great stuff that's beyond the 20 minutes, that's long form, but you need to do more short form and medium content as well, so that you have the attention and the interest funnel, because some people don't have 20 minutes or 30 minutes to watch the show like we're doing here, but they might have 5 minutes for a quick tip or 2 minutes for a quick tip. So that's one thing I would definitely recommend you do. In terms of the attention graph, you guys do really great with your thumbnails, but in your description, you need to lead with information and create context for the audience, but also for YouTube, because YouTube needs to search you, compare you to other channels, and say, hey, I'm going to recommend this, I'm going to recommend that. Like, I might be a recommended channel if someone's watching your show in the side because of how I've indexed for design, and you guys need to do more content that allows you to do that, but also fill out your descriptions, your titles, and tags in a way that creates that relevance. You need to reverse engineer what's good for blogging and apply that to video metadata as well. So that's definitely big there. And for the engagement graph, you have to get people engaged in the content. What I do is I like to ask questions in the beginning, middle, and end of my videos about what people want to see or what their thoughts are on something. So there's a reason for them to comment, to agree, disagree, add something, recommend a book, whatever, in a video. So that creates that relationship. You can do challenges of the day, questions of the day, and then you can also use that to get people to go to your other platforms. If you want them to follow you on Twitter, tell them that you can comment below, but if you want to answer in real time, tweet at me at, and then I would say, oh, tweet at me at Roberto Blake, and then people will go to my Twitter. Or I say, hey, I'm doing something over with, Instagram. Maybe you need to go there, and maybe I'll hashtag this, and I will like it, or I will comment on it if you want me to see it. So you create that relationship in the engagement graph by asking for something from the audience, giving something to them, and telling them you want to have a conversation. You don't just want to talk at them.
That is so awesome. First of all, that's super awesome.
You got some really good tips.
Very prescriptive, and I love it. Bullet point, like you organize it all in your mind. That was freaking awesome.
Well, we need to do final thoughts. We need to do final thoughts.
All right.
I'm getting the 2-minute mark. What were you going to say?
I was just saying we need to do what you're doing. He gave us the plan, and I love how open and transparent you are. I just wanted to acknowledge that. All right, it's final thoughts. Jose, you want to start?
Well, I'll start, and Roberto, since you're our guest, you can have the final thought.
Wait. I have this. I need to do this.
Go do that.
We're starting a new segment, Roberto. It's a free association game. I say a word. You just tell me what you think about when I say that word, okay? I'm going to give you 5 words, and you just whatever's the top of your mind. Okay?
Short, a sentence.
Short, a phrase, a sentence, okay? Joy.
Creating something awesome today.
Fear.
Not succeeding at anything.
Goals.
Growing the audience, helping 100,000 creative professionals be awesome.
What are you protective of?
My community.
And give us a guilty pleasure.
Anything sci-fi, fantasy, anime, manga, comics, anything nerd related.
Do you want to know something? Chris Doe is on the board of Comic-Con. That's how.
No. Society of Japanese Animation.
Okay.
So,
that's even better.
Even better. So for you nerds out there, here's my final thought.
Unite nerds!
Nerds unite.
Yes.
You guys should be friends.
We'll
You should be friends on YouTube.
No. We're going to do a cosplay together.
Oh, we should do an anime episode.
Cosplay.
I love anime.
Right.
Let's do an anime episode.
The show is falling apart.
Instagram, it's nothing but cosplay photos. Go to my Instagram. It's nothing but cosplay photos I've taken pretty much.
Well, there you go. That will gain a really big following.
Right. We'll go as 2 stormtroopers.
Princess Mononoke over here. All right. So, okay.
Wrap it up.
Here's how we're going to wrap it up. Here's what I heard. There's 3 really key things. One is get over it. Get over the shyness and over the, this is actually a given. Second is think like a media company. You are a media brand, whether you like it or not. It's micro media. It's not like the old 20th century big media. It's just you are media. And then the final thing we were talking about at lunch is that just it's a lifestyle. It's not like this is something that you do separately from your design practice, but sharing online, using social media, creating videos, it should become a habit. It should become a lifestyle. It should become part of what you do on a day-to-day basis. That's it.
Do I have the next? And then
You are next.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
Mr.
here's what
Dunn.
I got. Just speaking from personal experience, I've been one that's been late to get in front of the camera and to participate in the social conversation that's happening. Like you said, the way the world is moving, we're moving into a content economy. You can get on that train, or you can just stay and get left behind. So you got to get on it. So what you want to do is you want to get on a social platform that's suited for your personality and your personality type. If you have a great speaking voice, do a podcast. If you don't want to do anything about your voice or your face, post something on Instagram.
If you're ugly, just do a thing. Who cares? I mean,
Put a bag over your head. Whatever.
Look at Chris and I. We're not necessarily, models, or we could be.
Well,
all right,
okay.
keep on going.
All right. So
Speak for yourself. Is that what you're saying?
And the last part is really just develop an organic conversation with your audience and allow yourself and be flexible enough to move with where the audience wants to go. And that way you can deliver value. I love that part about having a social conversation as opposed to just doing a monologue. Roberto, your turn. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts, Roberto.
So the final thoughts is the thing that most people that keeps most people from being successful at this or anything else comes down to the one thing, comes down to patience. We talked about how long this stuff takes. For me, it didn't take super long. From going, it's been less than 2 years. It'd be 2 years since I started taking YouTube seriously and really using that as the flagship for my personal brand. In end of July or August, it'll be about 2 years from that, and this is where I am currently. And that was my experience, and that was just based on what I did. But it won't be the same for everybody, and people lose patience, and everyone starts at zero. Everyone starts at zero, and people get discouraged because of low view counts, low subscriber counts, and they give up and they stop. And Gary Vee talks about this. You got to take unlimited jabs to the face, because if we all stopped trying to walk every time we fell on our butt, nobody would walk. You have to be willing to fail 100 times, 1,000 times, and people worry about, well, how long does it take? Try until. If you want a goal, it shouldn't matter how long it takes. You have the whole rest of your life to achieve that goal. And so I just work backwards from the legacy that I want to leave behind 100 years from now. I think at that point, and I go backwards from there and say, what does my life story look like? And every day, am I writing a amount of pages that I feel is appropriate and that I can live with today? If it stops tomorrow, am I good with that? So I have to almost obsessively put out as much as I can, because I have to do a brain dump. I have to leave behind a Star Wars holocron of all of my knowledge for future generations. And
Look, you're getting pretty serious. So real quick, Roberto, how do people get you on social media? What's your Twitter? What's your YouTube channel?
You can find me basically by just putting Roberto Blake in any search. But on YouTube, I am youtube.com/RobertoBlake2, and you will find creative content from me several times a week, if not daily. You can find me in my Facebook fan page at facebook.com/RobertoBlake2, at Roberto Blake in Twitter, Roberto Blake in Instagram, Roberto Blake in Snapchat, believe it or not. And my Google Plus URL is a little weird. It's Roberto Blake PSD. And that's a Photoshop thing. So that's where you can find me. I'm sure we'll have links in the description, so definitely make sure you check it out.
We're going to have links in the description, absolutely.
First of all, I just want to say, or just kind of summarizing the thoughts here, we've had a conversation online. I'm glad to talk to you kind of sort of face-to-face. It's been awesome. Thanks for coming on the show at Roberto Blake. He's very easy to find. And let's apply some of his tips right now.
Right now.
Go do that.
So one is subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel.
If you like the content.
If you like the content.
Comment.
Subscribe also to Roberto's channel. Comment. Tell us, what do you think? So here's a question for all of you guys who answer, especially the folks. Between Chris and I, who's more obnoxious?
That's a real question?
That's a real question. No, that's not a real question. I disagree. What are the challenges that you have in building your personal brand? Like, what are the things that get in the way of getting started? Because we'll answer the questions on how to get started.
And I'm sure Roberto will help to comment on it as well.
That. So,
absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
How do you get over the challenges? Thank you guys for watching. Remember, at the School Rocks is the Twitter. Our Twitters are below. We'll see you guys again soon.
Join us next time.
All right, and everybody, hey, don't forget, create something awesome today.
Create something awesome.
Create something.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Hand of applause to Roberto for doing a great job from our awesome studio audience. All right, here we go.
Andrew, any day now.
Sorry.
Interpretive dance.
That was the ending.
All right.
All right, thank you, Roberto. That was awesome. How does it feel? How do you feel? I mean, that's 30 minutes live.
Wait, hold on. Did we cut audio?
That was intense. I loved it. I loved it. It was awesome.
I'm sorry, you love what?
I loved it. It was awesome. Did we cover everything that you guys wanted to cover?
Oh, and more. We covered so much content.